Gere Dondra Jeje Kyawanda Mente Neve Tadrava Tatimba Beja Bezo Tendere Dele Yo Saye Beje Shoye Meto Chama Jero Neje Nyede Jembo Te Sanye Jendo Mede Buwaye Dokwe Namdo Kino Sheba Yo Yedama Guru Rana Mandala Kaniya Sang Je Chedon Dorjee Chonan La Shanjo Bado Dane Jamsun Chin Dage Chujun Jebe Sonan Je Lola Pinshe Sanje Nubara Cho Sang Je Chedon Dorjee Chonan La Shanjo Bado Dane Jamsun Chin Dage Chujun Jebe Sonan Je Lola Pinshe Sanje Nubara Yo Sang Je Chedon Dorjee Chonan La Shanjo Bado Dane Jamsun Dage Chujun Jebe Sonan Je Lola Pinshe Sanje Nubara Yo Monas, Majelan Gitadan, Senji Tanji Tondo, Ujalana Mepa, Yanda, Zobi Sanji, Kumbaram, Kenji Tobra Shago, Tedobra Shavi Chedo, Tambi Churum, Senya, Bekono, Shanji, Semji, Semigon, Sembric.
We must strive to accomplish complete enlightened state for the sake of all other sentient beings. It's for that reason we should cultivate the altruistic motivation or bodhicitta motivation, and with that kind of motivation we should participate in this teaching.
Nonas, Angaran Samalo, and Tawashigin, Sanji Kombato Guyore. Atele then that ding the Shabina, and caught and a song of Dongani Tabato Guyore. That delay at the day of Majuna, and this show Shama pension at pay a social shame go at the Dong, a song of Dongi Moguiac, then Razo Tapkinda, within the Torshiguyore.
We have three different spiritual goals, if you like, that we could aspire to accomplish. Of course, the highest spiritual goal that we strive for is complete enlightened state, or what we call Buddhahood. So basically, each of us wants to be a fully endowed person. That's the highest goal. But then a level below that, if you will, we could be seeking what is called nirvana or nibbana, complete freedom from samsara or cyclic existence. So that would be more like an intermediate level spiritual goal. Or at the minimum, or at least, as spiritual practitioners, we should see that we're able to find a fortunate rebirth, a good rebirth in our next life, so that we don't have to be, in the unfortunate, states of existence where immense suffering exists.
That Shava Shama Tendini, Shava Purni, Shava Shama Penkilla, I can't song of doing your Mogueta, down the Tindi, and then the capsule, and
so in the minimum, we must make best of our efforts to see that once this life comes to an end and we move into the next life, in other words, that we do not have to be reborn in unfortunate states of existence where suffering is intense and immense. In other words, that we're able to find a good rebirth in our next life. So at least we should make efforts to see that that's something we can feel really confident about. You know.
So that the condition goes on. I mean, when around anything, Cindile, that me think at all, don't eat you can reach you do not tell some tiny. That and it tell a lap it, that so she may not tell a Janju don't you get, and then lap it, don't eat you or some. That tell it tap him, Maduna time and do something, can't ever sound tonguers.
So now how can we orient ourselves to kind of put in a proper mode of thinking to find a good rebirth in next life is when we look at our human life. Relatively speaking, this is a very precious life and a very wonderful life, but we do have our own human problems and pains and problems that we have to deal with. Now, if we compare our pains and problems to those of the sufferings of beings in the three unfortunate states of rebirth, our sufferings really almost don't count, because their suffering is 100,000 times more than the problems and issues that we deal with in our life. So now we make our choice, If we can't bear whatever human problems we have, can we really bear that immense suffering, that is very possible in our next life. So we really want to free ourselves from the state of bad rebirth or negative rebirth in our next life. So in that way, we are able to prepare our mind, to orient towards working to achieve a good rebirth, at least a good rebirth in our next life.
That is doing the share coat. She dang and song doing his samni, Dele tabi tab carrierasana, that day and a confusion as to Shambro, number tabaking about the sugarless.
So if we really don't want to be reborn in the unfortunate states, and also more than that, we want to be free from samsara for good, then what methods are available to us, means of the methods available to us, that could really help us to fulfill our aspirations or the wishes, if you ask. Of course, the method we have is called taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the triple gems. So it's the practice of refuge. If we do the practice of refuge properly and purely, then it can guarantee us not to have bad rebirth in our next life and help us to be free from samsara for good.
That Shambro Shane, the tall Karshagurasana, and the ranking him a star Sambita, Sin the town, Shawang Hamming Haman and Sabita, the Batan Dribatan Joyal Tavisha.
So what is involved in our practice of refuge is not simply seeking refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, but it also involves purification practice. That in our many previous lifetimes, even also in this life, we have accumulated so many negativities and negative karmas, and these karmas need to be purified. Okay, so the practice of refuge involves also the purification practice.
So that the Niji Shena and so good only Chobita, tap the Tangarasol, the Yudi, that soon tap the ending around to Hebashene, and then could use a shadow number of machine, him Tampani Shene, and to Shaman, such a Shaman pension, like Karasha Shamadi, and then as soon as Shamago, Tayungurs, Yinaya, and then Lendig Dungete, the social less sape, a Lendig Namgia, there was some Mancona. And call it tired type, your marriage, tongue marriage.
So if we, from the bottom of our heart, trust the three jewels and go for refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and we make efforts to purify ourselves of whatever negativities we have done so far, and try not to do them, again, then that would guarantee, if you will, us to find a good rebirth, fortunate rebirth in our next life. But then we could ask ourselves, would that be a sufficient goal for ourselves, or would that be enough? Well, of course, the answer to that is really not, because we would still be in samsara or single existence. So we want to be free from the state of suffering, from samsara for good. And for that, what we really need to understand is good understanding of infallible working of law of karma and its outcomes. We really need to understand what is karma and what kind of results do the karmas bring and how do they really function. Karmas don't make mistake in producing their results. So we need to understand the infallibility of how the karma operates.
That thing, that inducing that, so Sindili Santani, Ranta, Sheva Sansing, Rank Beta, Sindi, and that Maschen, and that Sindila and the Susu, Tambo Amicon, Maschen, Dean, and Tenetus and Better Basin, so Sheva the Service of the Chin, that Rank and his Pandus some Tambina, that logic means and little the San Tani. The news on the Tandipad, the Bamagavas Cassisando, Tansan Tangres.
So we can start off with this lifetime. We may not be able to remember what we did in our past lives. Let's, try to go back as much as we can in this lifetime, to what extent we can remember, our, development stages of life, if you will, right? I mean, there was a point that, we were delivered from the womb of the mother. Of course, maybe we don't remember anything then. And then, maybe we become, 1 or 2 year old. Perhaps then our state of mind become a little more sophisticated and we could think and we could, remember probably something. So from whatever point of time in our life, going back, we could remember and try to think, what kind of maybe negativities that we have created from then until now. So we need to really kind of purify those negativities.
So same the social code of Majiba in Sunny, so you can't share but data, can two of us, Jetata, to see Luke gone and saw your Majiba and Samashimala, Tanisha, Tamachman, the Loim, and then not going to Tamatunga, each gone nothing else and water. At the condition, those and so she can see chain to some Congress.
And we do not need to ask other people what we did. We should be able to remember what we did or what didn't do. Okay, because we say our own mind cannot be an obscured phenomenon, to ourselves. We witness what we have been thinking. And so in that sense, from whatever time we could remember, our life, so think about what kind of negativities that we have done. Think about the 3 negativities of the body: killing, stealing, and it could be adultery or sexual misconduct. Think about the 4 negativities of the speech: lying, and causing disharmony or division among people, and unpleasant speech and idle gossiping. How much have we done? Those things. Think about the 3 negativities of the mind: covetousness, coveting for the goods that other people have and dying to have them for oneself. Harmful intent, or even it could be very malicious harmful intent, wanting to hurt and others, and the distorted or the wrong views, perverted views. How many of these things have we done? Yeah. So we just kind of reflect on our own life, because we don't need to ask other people, right? Did you think that I did it? We just have to, to whatever extent we can remember, we should be able to, tell that to ourselves.
Rang shape later, rang shape, that's in the lose because the Wamagilica stand the day. That day, Della Bane, Shaw Toma Mevanata, Rang McGill do Sinta, Mamma Star, but that touch everest.
So based upon this life's experiences, then we can draw an inference, right? If this is the case I see in this lifetime, it is, it's equally true, or even more so, what I did in my many previous lifetimes that I may not recall. I definitely did a lot of negativities, that's for sure.
That's it. The page here was that. So the end those and that show and del dang saw Judge Majon. Atagani Kumakujma, that in the Sangur of us. In a Tali, Hibden Juice Javina, may jingle any dose in the social Kavade, and then may Yinda Kirpat, so I gave his chandler down, thinking Karina just 6 and with this Shavina. I think meeting say, and then round the 7 chase and marriage others. They only round the means they say on the sense, thinking and those about 0 is 6 a lot. That is saying the sense, this was somebody and those Shavina, But so you lay that chat something so that's average. So dental dead your gang you tango martina meeting those getting so jet sanitation the rank the hakulis and that 100 some at 100 years. So just later rank shabby chadiers.
Now, as we engage in kind of a, how to say, self-reflection, try to figure out about our own life, what we have done positively and negatively. And if we somehow feel like, what, in this life I haven't killed anybody, I did not steal anything, and I did not do other things. But then we really have to kind of pause, if you will, and say that karma is very subtle. We really have to understand that even though we say that I did not kill anyone, but we have to see, have I encouraged somebody to kill someone? Have I rejoiced in the negativities of the other people? Well, then if we have, even though we ourselves have not literally done it, conventional sense, but if we really rejoice in the bad things others have done, then we got issues. We have created negativities. Let me give you an example here of a killing. Let's say I personally tell myself, okay, I have not killed anybody. But have I asked someone to kill someone for me? Okay? And if I did that, and whenever that person, killed the other person, if I rejoice in that, I have a satisfaction, great, Now that, person, I hated it, is knocked out, That's a good job. Well, we have created the negative karma of killing someone, although we ourselves have not done it literally in a conventional sense. By making someone do it for us and rejoicing in his or her action, we have already created, negative action of killing. And the same thing with stealing and other negativities. So that's why we really need to kind of think deeply and say, if I have not done some negativities, have I participated in some way in other people's negativities, that when others hurt and harm others, we said, oh, that's great. Or we somehow inspire and encourage other people to do negativities. In the Lamrim is a Tibetan term which means stages of the path, and we have treatises of the texts which are categorized as Lamrim teachings. So if you look on those Lamrim, what's being said is, it really doesn't take much of an effort to do something negative. Just being sitting quietly, but moving our lips slightly, we could have created, or we could create negativity that can precipitate our rebirth in hell or in any other bad migration. So imagine that. If we don't have to do much, just simply move our lips in some direction and something say, a negative thing, that, that's it. That's good enough to go to hell.
So that tende lamra ke sumba te ane sanji jikata tende ane kai gonde te khungton sung yerma to ha se ta rangzo tene mares.
So Lamrim essentialize Buddha's teachings, and it's kind of a guide and a commentary in Buddha's teaching. Lamrim could not have made such things, the Lamrim authors, in other words, right? Based upon what Buddha originally taught, the Lamrim is elucidating the essential points to us, right? So Lamrim could not have cooked up, such things for whatever reasons.
When that man of Jeguvena, so say ma pick pa ngos and a machine be sheni, and it's ma jayata, Datuya, pay, dress in a pay, Yandu show 20 yenata, to a timney, Tinan Judiana. And you control pick mamma to pick change savings and round pick ngos ching America, America, but Munti Shepherd Samji. And then he meant to send the Geshes and control that do that say, and that Dixon Samba Shavina, Jetta, that's so Malching America, America, Mammy Penny say on this, Mammy Lady Sagar, so they didn't Lady Sagar, which are songers.
Great Indian master Acharya Vasubantu, in his Treasury of Knowledge or Abhidhamma Kosh, states, Geshe quoted the lines from his memory. And it gives a very wonderful example of how we may not in a conventional sense or literally do something negative, but simply participating and planning out negativities with other people, and they do the negativities actually, we could be creating, the same negativities. Now, an example that's being given here is, say, that one does not go to the battlefield to fight, the enemies. Okay? The soldiers are sent, or the armies are sent, whatever the case may be. But one is involved in all the strategic planning, just sitting here and, just playing it all out, how to wipe out and kill all the enemies. Now, the soldiers go to the battlefield and they kill the enemies, but because of the fact that one has participated in this, one also accumulates the negativities of killing. Okay? So this is really very important for us to keep in our mind. So we could be thinking like, what, I did not go to the battlefield at all. I'm just home, staying. But just simply participating in the planning issue and talking about it, and agreeing with them and encouraging them, supporting them, rejoicing in their actions and all of these things, we are creating, negative actions.
So
I think those things are, in some ways, if we kind of pay attention, it's not that difficult to understand, how we could be participating in negativities that other people do. Okay, maybe let's make it even more specific here. Let's say, somebody who really wants to, is dying to, have like a chicken, for lunch or whatever the case may be. And, doesn't want to kill a chicken for that, but then hires someone to do it, so to speak, the dirty job. Okay? So when the other person kills the chicken, and you cook it and eat it, the fact of the matter is that your negativity of killing the chicken is completed along with that other person's action. In many ways, this is even worse. Okay? So it's, in some sense, if you're going to do a negativity, you better do it yourself. So at least, you are responsible. You don't get other people involved. Not only that, we ourselves have created negativity. Now we made somebody kill it. You see, we got somebody involved here. So even it got worse, here.
When I come and put your Jidisani, Busing it lashed in the Sarah is slap. I say it's as now that in this somewhere I will share some attention that they look covered was.
So I think there are really difficult issues that we face in our everyday life, when we do the fumigation of the house, right? In some sense, we just kind of hire and pay the bill, and then other people is doing it, whatever they're doing. But then afterwards, if you say, what, now, my house is completely no, kind of insects or insecticides, whatever is there, you rejoice in that, well, we got some issues here, okay? So these are the kind of issues we have to deal in our everyday life. We have to think about all these matters.
Then, she was
So when we really think deeply on this, like karma matters, as I would put it, then really, when it comes to the actual action, it's a difficult matter. Even it's like, killing a mouse or catching a mouse or, as Geshe said, killing some cockroaches or ants or whatever the case may be who are bugging us, We really have real issue here to deal with, So when we look at these things, then how nice it is for people who are up in the meditation caves. Really don't have to deal with these issues. And their life is much more better than our life. There should be caves.
That in this sense, so that could diverse side rank speak legal.
So the point I'm trying to drive home here is that we really have to think about how we could be participating in creating negativities. Right? We don't have to do too much physically or something. Simply sitting, moving our lips in one direction or the other, we could be participating or creating negativity. So we all have to really watch out and pay attention to such things.
So that Tenzo Kanga Anita Rang pay Tabe Compound Toil, never sing each other. They won't give it.
So when we create negativities, negativities are the, hindrances or the obstacles on our way to find liberation and enlightenment. Because they block us, they stop us, from becoming enlightened and achieving nirvana.
Taba the Tangible Compound Toil, like a years. That Minto Shogana, they were Sayer than ever that someone members of it. They were Digata. And they were making it later, you want you think about them ever so.
So whether we are seeking enlightenment or a liberation, we have two jobs, if you will, two actions to undertake. So one is we need to do the purification of our contaminated karmic actions and delusions and the imprints of the delusions, right? So purification action is one of them.
That tuition is again a day, give it later, Saguris, Gawatan, give it later, the Hanayata, Gawatan, and a son saw that he's 20 Saguris.
And the second action is what we call the accumulation practice, which means we need to accumulate positive actions, we need to accumulate merit and insight of wisdom. Okay? So we are talking about two things, what we should not do and what we should do. We should not do negativities and delusional things. We should do the positive things and cultivate insight or wisdom. So our really job consists of two things, purification and accumulation.
Give it less Saguitania, they were summoned Jenny, Susipe, Susi, de Lutanga and Rita. Never do there, Susu was Magina. And then Susu and Pege gave it Mambos Aguilas.
Now, just as earlier I talked about how we ourselves may not personally or conventionally get involved in creating negativities, but simply rejoicing in others' negativities or making them do it, we are creating negativities. Now, it's the same with the positive actions. We ourselves might not physically or verbally, let's say, participate in doing something positive, but simply rejoicing in the good actions that others are doing, we are creating and accumulating positive actions.
So that rank depend rank was give a dumatone, give a drinking make that, Tunzuga Nipeg give a drubatil, any rank the Shavina, Carsegurity, yes, here and Shavina, and then run that percentage in Guares.
So let's say an individual feels like, I cannot do such positive things or practice such and such things, but I do know people who are doing a lot of good things and practice the things. So if one really sincerely rejoices in other people's good actions and practice, because of that appreciation or admiration, one also accumulates, a merit, positive actions. So when we know of or see a very good practitioner, sincere, we say, it's really important that, how important it is to do the practice. And here is a person, or here are some people who are doing that, and I really totally rejoice in their actions, and may I be able to do the same thing, sooner than later,
That rather strong Java to Juma that and pay Kunju Radu Shoni, Dombason, the Kijaya, what young yet, and I said to us something, Shavina, tell I pay Ranle and Tapcheta, gave someone which Saguaris.
And let me give another example. As an individual, one may feel that, I could not become a monk or a nun, but I know there are people who have taken monastic ordination and they're keeping their vows, and so that's very wonderful. And so we rejoice in their, vows and commitments, and also hope and pray that in some days we are able to follow them and, take ordination. So by doing that kind of rejoicing, and we are able to accumulate merit.
tumna a ngeba du tsuba shego ndo same sanu jindo tambe na ta gyoja chimbu saga.
So that the same thing goes with other positive actions. When other people are, very respectful of, each other, or that they are really cultivating loving kindness or compassion. So we may feel that, at this stage I'm really not there yet, but these people are, being very kind and generous and compassionate and practicing those things. So may I, I really want to do that. We make a commitment. I really want to do that, and hopefully soon that I am able to do the same thing like these people. Now let me put this in another way, that when we see people doing something harmful and negative, right, and we encounter such people, then we say, how really, we sincerely think that how nice it would be if they really don't hurt others and harm others, okay, and so we wish them, may they, be able to stop, harming others. And I will myself never do that. By seeing this person doing something negative or hurting others, I just tell myself I'm not going to hurt anybody else. And may others be able to do the same thing. So cultivating such positive thoughts, again, we are generating merit.
So if
we kind of discipline our mind and cultivate these thoughts, as often as possible in everyday life, then, after a while our mind, it's kind of improves its level, and it will be able to, so to speak, think in those positive pattern, quite easily. So it's not enough for us to reflect on this once or twice, I did reflection, because that really doesn't do it. We need to, cultivate intimacy, with familiarity with this kind of thinking, and as we cultivate that familiarity with a positive thinking, then after a while our mind takes care of itself, and now we find ourselves really generating a lot of positive actions and merit. So we can tell ourselves that, yes, what I want to achieve is complete enlightened state for the sake of all sentient beings. Although theoretically speaking, it is very possible to become Buddha in one lifetime. There are methods to do that. But reality checking, so to speak, for most of us, maybe that is not the truth for us. It may take many lifetimes for us to reach complete enlightened state, which means it's important for us to find good rebirths in our successive lifetimes so that we can carry on and move ahead with our practice, right? So in that sense, I should purify my negativities and accumulate more merit so that in my successive lifetimes I'm moving ahead and progressing to enlightened state. Because the fact of the matter is I'm not going to be Buddha in this lifetime. It's less likely to happen in my case. So that's what I just want to tell all of us, including myself. As much as I'm telling you, I'm telling myself this is what I need to think about. And now let's go back to where we left off in our text called A Miscellaneous Collection of Kadampa Geshe's Personal Advices. So where we left off last week was that attachment, that's the term we use, Dorjee, is a source that gives rise to many other delusions. So what kind of attachment are we talking about? That seems to be a major source of all other delusions. Of course, not if you will, the usual kind of attachment. Somebody's attached to beautiful flowers. Okay, somebody's attached to the beautiful forms or attractive forms. That is attachment, no doubt, but that is not the attachment that we are talking about, which is a source of the delusions. So the attachment, which is source of delusions, is that related to our self-grasping. We grasp at self to exist in and of itself, and we are very attached to that. See, that attachment, self-grasping, is a source of our delusions. So it is from that kind of attachment, we're talking about self-grasping attachment, that other delusions come about. A great Indian Buddhist master, realized master called Acharya Chandrakirti, in his middle way, a supplement to the middle way, states that it is from, literally translating, it is from the view of transitory collection, Tibetan term is, okay, the view of transitory collection, to simplify it means self-grasping, all other forms of delusion arise.
That thing I do
So we got to see that for ourselves. We got to understand that matter.
That thing machine carries in your motor, maybe so good, cargo, just a thing. So why
we really need to understand that is we want to get rid of all the delusions. That means we need to get to the source of the delusions, right? If we don't, identify the source of the delusions, how can we get rid of all the delusions? So if we take time to think about how we experience this grasping at I or a self, right? First thing, always the most important, the center of the universe, so to speak, is I. Okay, so it's me or I comes up, and then related to that, what comes is everything mine. Okay, so as Geshe was saying, my ears, my eyes, my nose. So something to do with the my is so important now. Okay, so how from the grasping at self arises grasping at mine.
So that ngala meaning that thing has zambuta yakbo. When the say the ngala say which you go to, ngala coin jump which you goes, ngala ane tramaki which you goes, ngala pay make it one as soon as you go. That then they get it, Ganga do in the Chawat Karesan ko Rang like Chabi Dangzi, Rang Datun Zini, Della Chabi, Della Tenita Shingon was.
So, you see, it is from that grasping at self, because I becomes the center of the universe, because I am the, world. And so now everything to do with me, I want all the best of the sensual pleasures for myself, okay, because of that grasping, right? I want to have the best food, okay? I want to listen to the best sound of the music. I want the best sight or the, things to see, attractive things. I want the best touch, I want the best dress, So everything is related to that in the pursuit of the I, making this, fixed notion of I that is so important at the center of the universe that we feel that all other things, need to be provided to, to the I.
And so what the run keeper and seen it, run that such which is seen that tell at any against someone those in the was.
So here what happens is with that grasping, there's tremendous amount of self-cherishing attitude, because I is the world. You see, we are not saying others are important. It's just me, that's I, it's the world, and all other sensual pleasures have to do with I,
So the that and they tell at any and they the Geshe that the tell at any later Sagres and Sagnus, Dele, there's a day Lenge Sani Court Chambains. That the Digane doesn't but they lay Sani, they run call Chango, but the Rangilio doesn't these zebras can do.
So because of that, grasping at I or the self, and which is the most important, and so everything else is secondary, everything else is kind of a secondary to that I, then we engage in actions which usually involve deluded actions. And these deluded negative actions, they keep us in samsara. Okay? And so that's why we go round and round in samsara. Because of all the deluded actions, which all originate from self-grasping, and that keeps us merry-go-round in the samsara. So when we really look at the issue from that perspective and angle, really there is nobody else to blame. How can we point our finger at someone or some object and say, what, he or that thing is responsible for my life? Everything really goes back to ourselves. The point I'm trying to make it clear here is the real, source of our problems is within us. Of course, other people and other things can become a conditioning factors. Of course, others can, act as a conditioning factors to, give rise to our delusions or to support our delusional experiences, whatever the case may be. But they are not the real source of our problems. The real source of our problem exists within us. That is our own self-grasping.
Nasikibu Yorvas, Lezu Yorvas, this you had the Rang Dangzi Maribati Zebres. You know, called Zonke, Lagba, the code Zong Miti, Jane of Shermazo code, less Angita for a child was.
So if someone, beat us up, very nicely and, pretty much, make us like a dead body, that was the expression used. Well, it really looks like that other person is responsible.
Smite is better than nice.
Yeah. But really the fact of the matter is that all the pain we go through, the bodily pain and everything, that's all related to our own self-grasping. Self-grasping is the real source of our pain and problem. What other person has did is simply provided the conditioning factor.
Yeah. Okay. That thing I just tell my never sound that.
So I think we all really need to pay close attention to this matter, how others can only be conditioning factors, but they could not be the main causes of our problems.
That thing, that one they chat and they chat, they correct Google Sena, the Nyembochi Tangures.
So if that form of attachment or the self-grasping is the source of delusions, and we want to get rid of it, so how can we do it? That's why we need to talk about an antidote, to counteract the self-grasping. Of course, we can talk about many kinds of antidotes here. The antidote, the most important antidote is, as I often explain to you, is the realization of selflessness. So realization of selflessness means that we need to realize how the self actually exists.
That dangzi the champion the church the church was and the church team ever so Sela chapin the cha, Zula chapin the cha, Roller chapin the cha, Dala chapin the cha, Tanzu ever so Karizanda, Muduba Congress Canado.
So in order to get rid of the real culprit here, self-grasping, we need to gain the realization of selflessness, how the self actually exists. Okay, what is its ultimate mode of existence, as we would say, But then relating to the self-grasping, I said other forms of attachment come out. Right now we are attached to food, we're attached to form, we're attached to sound, we're attached to touch, all these other things come up. But in order to counteract those other forms of attachment, if you will, temporarily, then we can reflect on what is called repulsive nature of things, the repulsiveness. So there are 5 things involved in meditation on. I'm literally translating. Mituko means, which literally means, simplest word is ugly. Okay, that doesn't, but it means repulsiveness. So ugliness. This was.
Okay. That Tambo Karesana, Tambo Tiani, Re Mata, Pusing Nabago, Tandimuduba Kerem, Inayan, Tandri. But Chayutele, then Chayutele, any Choga the Kimin Dusi Chavina. That tell Kandi Congress, then Mudu Kandi Congress and Ali data. Ali Tambo, Mata, Pusing number Gombas. So say, Gemba in a Mata. Gemba in a Rang put a pomo. And tele Areta. And that around the number in the tap, Timpena Sumota, and that the legal number 1.
So one of the ways, to counteract an attachment to people, I will put it that way in a genetic sense. Of course, this is really not something to repulsiveness per se, although it is categorized under meditation or repulsiveness. But what we talk about first one is, I don't think there's anything repulsive here. But the thing about is, say, if one is attached to another person, right? So how do we deal with that attachment temporarily? So one of the ways to deal with, if that other person is, kind of much older than oneself, one could think of that person as one's parent, okay, mom and dad. Okay. If that person is much younger than one, we could think of that person as one's child, okay, one of one's children. Okay. If that person is about the same age, age cohort group, then one can think of, okay, this is my brother and sister. Okay. So by thinking that way, we are able to temporarily, underline the temporary part here, temporarily deal with attachment to this other person.
That indeed, any that Choga the Jimmy, that in that the Chag passing Chagaduna, and those in the top of the poem in the Jimmy, that the Shiguna number to go on to do the rest.
So, this could be applied in different situations. Even in the case of, Geshe was saying, like husband and wife relationship, or that intimate relationship. If there's too much obsessive attachment, that's getting an issue. Then maybe that's one way of thinking. Think of the other person as one's, a relative rather than, one's, life partner. Not sure.
That around Gambala and Champion, that end, the judge, you permission number going to be set up, put up, permit, chogat number going to be chena, round Gambala Chavashena, Della Maita Pie into Higom. Round the Yambal and the Jeshabaina tell us Sumota, Ani, Mingwin to Higom. Round Gamba in the Chavashena tell us put up Pimin to Higom, rank put up Pimin to Higom. I think the nature Duambaina, and each Rangula, Della Chabat the Don of Rescan.
So let's say if, say one is attached to one's husband or wife too much, so one could put that thinking that either one could think of that person as, depending upon the age group, maybe this is more like cohort, so like your brother or sister. If somebody's older than you, maybe one of your parents. If somebody's much younger than you, one of your children, one of your cousins, And so that can temporarily help us to deal with attachment. Okay?
That going to be. That then they go and do Chabat Dogmandusi.
Yes. So by thinking that way, still if we couldn't deal with that attachment, you see the attachment still, is popping up, then
that guy is the most a Shabata, two of the Gongo Rescanum.
Yes. They can just
Dagi, Tsugi Maimba Yella, the Ranges, Tsugi Maimba Yella Sena. Going to top maybe he sent the Tandre. Ali Tandre 7 Digmaris. And me be Rasu get social bait of a Yinaya. Only he said that they be Sanya the Sanjis about Chengaris. That thing was that was a chain. More chagres sometimes, then is some.
So if that's thinking that along that line is still like really not working that much, then another way of thinking is that we kind of think about what would others think of my state of mind. And others in this case are the holy beings and the Buddhas, and I cannot lie to them, I can keep quiet, but still they see me, okay? They know what's going in my mind. And so it would be really kind of embarrassing to put myself in a situation where Buddhas and they know what is happening in my mind, and so I don't want myself to be in that embarrassing situation, So maybe that kind of a thinking might help us to temporarily deal with our attachment. Okay, this is, I have got this attachment which is an inappropriate state of mind. It's not a proper, there's nothing positive about it. So I kind of feel shy, embarrassed that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas kind of know my state of mind, So I don't want myself in that state, so I don't want to disappoint them, So in that way, we may be able to temporarily deal with our attachment.
Dagi tsugi mahi be yina sheba chona sai lata banang lana chi ene shio nala janis chen de ya takwa nge be chabon juris.
Okay. So we might think that, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have a lot of love and compassion. Even they see, they will understand me. They are not going to tell everybody else, wow, what's happening in his mind or her mind, But then think about this way, There's other media publication here, sort of. There are other levels of celestial beings, in the world. And this kind of worldly celestial beings, they can badmouth, they can spread the word, what's going in your mind through the other, other beings. And that's kind of embarrassing,
That day told ane rang that tsugi mahi bandu sheba ane shemai ane son rogre samta samadne tani the sheba ane ta the chapter doya the yores tab yores.
And then more so if you really reflect on that, how this attachment can really lead me into the bad rebirth that I don't want to have in the future, that would really, I think, be very strong, way of thinking to temporarily, overcome our attachment.
Go tampilas, Mosa said to Mosa said, Yena turn in Zambatel Mosas. Tears in Rang that shown the Chena shown the Tony. That is in the Digumaris and Rang Tony Rang 13 Zambatel tears. And then, yes, Jambas, Sanjay the Trade against Jambatli Shavina, and they chop the door with his canando.
There are these, I think two concepts which I personally find very hard to translate into English. Maybe it's a cultural barriers or something like that. But the Tibetan the concept is called ngosa, which literally has been translated as a shame, sense of shame. But I still don't know whether it's really cultural to give that sense of. And it is defined as, if I do such and such wrong thing, what would other people think of me? They will be disappointed. So I should feel shy about it. That's how it's defined as ngosawa. So that way we can stop it, Or they tell you about, which has been translated as sense of embarrassment. I still don't think it really captures it. It's like, it doesn't matter what other people think of, what you are going to do. But think about what would you think of yourself if you do this, such action. Would I approve myself doing such wrong thing? And it is kind of embarrassing in that sense. Okay, so I thought there's some kind of cultural barriers to be able to translate these concepts. It's called ngosa, translated as sense of shame, and tell you about a sense of embarrassment. And then Chestemba means recollecting Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, holy beings to the mind. We said, I do not want to disappoint them, so I should stop doing, negative actions.
Oh, that's somebody. Was it here about the trade between Gombati? That's somebody Matsang Kings, Tenga number Gombalas, Tambo Matsama, teacher the Gombanes, Kaji Rata Jinje, Sheba the Pemiga, the zoo, the Matsami, number Kimato, Samaki Mavi just on Tongu.
Okay, then another way to temporarily deal with our attachment is, this is really repulsiveness, as we really talk about. It doesn't matter whether we look at a male body or a female body, what it really is constituted by. Look at the elements, everything. Then there are things we can talk about as what we call impure, just simply translated misawa. This is some kind of, maybe the ugliness doesn't capture it in English, but this is kind of impurities which constitute our body. So in Buddhism, we do talk about how each of our body, disregarding our gender, it could be constituted by as many as 36 impure, elements or constituents. Okay, we are not going to go through that. Okay, we spare you with that. But just metaphorically speaking, if we really look at those, elements of our body, then it's like, we are a beautiful bag of filth. That's what it is. It looks so beautiful from the outside. We don't know how to kind of plaster outside in a very attractive form, but inside is a bag filled with filth. That's what it is. So you should even want to be more specific here, How about the refined gold pot filled with shit inside? That's what it is, So that's my, non-Tibetan translation, just direct, as he said.
That making some Ganga Sam Congress. Thing is a part of Sheba Pimili Chagmari,
If you really think that way, honestly with you, do you think we will get attached to each other? If we see each other as, a nice bag of filth, do you think we will get attached to each other? We are not, you see.
That young Nimbus chicken, Maran Samalo, and the symbol GT Tonshay in this. So she Zubu, the symbol Mumanda Gita, GT in Berta, GT. Symbol that the naked tongue I Kunzuka gave me a single.
No,
sure. Nothing but there. Not the naked that. Come on, that the Tonshay, then they put the that Tonshay and Charlie.
Then another way, we're looking at our body is how our body, I think this scientifically we can talk about, consists of so many bacteria and all kinds of germs inside. So the big number that's thrown is like 80,000. Okay, 80,000 of them are there in the body. So it's almost like metaphorically speaking, our body is a city for these, germs and bacteria and, bacteria, whatever you want to call them. So, it's not a pretty thing.
That in that and Sheba the permission lute and number Mawa Gombata, number Pamba Gombata. That is a rejoice to the Gombata and Mamma going to do Muduba Gondisan.
So when we really go into kind of a more into the depth of the repulsive meditation of repulsiveness, then we can really get grosser and grosser here. In a sense like we can think of the body, how the body it undergoes almost like how we call the biological changes. When the body is a dead body, you keep for a while, its colors change, it started to foul smell, it started to rot, and so we can go through all those things to be able to deal with our attachment to the body. The body is in that nature. It can decay, it can rot, it can smell, it can, go all those things.
That is, and we say about that. Number two, that in the river, that repent the Shigon, that and Tamagareta, River Jod, River Changmachi.
So, in this kind of meditation, at the end, we can see that what is really left are just pieces of bones. That's all there is to it.
That is the number you want to use. So, and the Guru number you want to use. That Kanga knows that Zane, but Shalom Pangwa and I would see your was that Kanga Kuri Chavin, their frog.
In the treasure of knowledge, there is really, as part of meditation to deal with attachment temper, is talk about meditating on skeletons, right? So imagine that we are sitting here, although we all look very beautiful human beings, nice skin tone and everything, but if we really peel off the skin, ultimately what is there are the bare bones. So we are skeletons, it's like the whole environment is filled by skeletons, Now imagine, would you be really happy to attach to skeletons, All right, that the Penatan then Zula
Sheba the Pemic Zula Chabico, Kedi Gorova.
No.
Tapena, modern of singing, Mova the Kamba and Zebo Kibitambu, you are the Inn, you saw any peta, Rota Kibi, Rotin Kibi Chagrovas.
No.
That and they are Tambu, you are the call. Tambu Saba Hibiji and Co, the names on the Digi Tambu, remembering before do chin. You say rotin chagi. Any conquerors. Modella Chavichabadoya, Kambala Chavichabadoya. Metola Chavichabadoya, that remembering with this. Tambu the Chibi or then remembering because those Salsa Chagdos.
Of course, what is mentioned in the text is, how to deal with our attachment to another person, a male or female. Okay, and then we talk about how our body is constituted by many elements, because our body is in the nature of decay. You see, that's why eventually our body rot, it becomes nothing, you see. So, and maybe when we are born and fresh, it's so beautiful and we grow up, everything, but the fact of the matter is, down the line, a day will come, this body really won't like it, what it really becomes. And now we will also look at the other things we have in this car, right? All the beautiful homes and houses and cars. When we buy a new car, it's very dashing. It is very, glamorous and everything. So just think about it. This is in the nature of a decay. You just have a car crash and then look at it. And how beautiful is that one? Okay. Well, all the chemicals, went into producing this beautiful, dashing-looking car. All the things went into the house. After how many years, the house looks dilapidated and it started to decay, So one day the house really is not a house we started off, looks very nice and beautiful, we like it so much, it can become nothing. So all these things, we consider all these matters, it really helps us to deal with our attachment to things, houses, and people, and animals.
That you the Garrison, that the Kemi number gombas. That Garrison, that and do a chava dog maduna tape, but re. Sheba Tang, Pimina Chava Dogmadina, that rang Chava Sesati. And that Aniti, Deletene, Dine, Dag Chu, that Trimpi. Ye Pumbership Dows, that and by random Chu, the Mentibus on Hating sometimes the Shabina, Setako, the Chava Dogres.
So we are trying to look at, how to deal with attachment from many different perspectives or angles. Another way is maybe, if we kind of put ourselves in the mode of seeing the other person in the form of an enemy, then we won't get attached to an enemy, And how much trouble this other person is causing because of my attachment to the person, what the other person brings to the table, so to speak, how much headaches, is being produced. And see that in the sense of an enemy, my attachment is a real enemy here, right? That is not doing anything good to me, it's hurting me so badly, and it's going to hurt me even more in the future, then that could temporarily help us to put a stop on our attachment.
That means that could to be you publish it down. Tabby Sosa came here, time to do a tabby so you came out. Gabiloto, Jumper shape is servo, Serenagi. Prisons over the troubleship, Chongumo. Gay Zawatanji, part the Jabber shape, Dumo. Koi Dungali, Tarad Materivi, Sunsumo. Nyama Tada, Queen Pong shaping, Tumo. Dunga Tanji, Junis, Churba. Nyavi, Mekantavi, or Nyamdu Sampe, Chago Dobrashin, Esos. Kati Techa Madonna, Dangava Dereta, not region number governor, Pena, Joma Kinji Sheba the Pimotata. That and they Chaba did Dogumadana Anita, learned when she Chaba Chesaku Ute, and they Joma King Tribute, Tata language in Nankisan Congress.
No. So basically what Geshe read through was just basically to deal with our attachment and other person's attachment to us. We are doing all this name calling, This attachment that I have to the other person is a butcher that's going to kill me. It is the prisoner who keeps me in the prison. It is the jailer here. It is the demon inside me. It is the real robber who robs of all my virtues. And we just kind of do all the name calling to put down our attachment and so deal with it. So if that is not working, well, another way to do it is we can think of the other person we are attached to just like magical creation. You go to the magic show, the magician who used, his or her tricks and all the powers to create what we call the illusory horses and elephants. They look very good, beautiful horses and elephants, but they are not real. there is no substance to this.
That the next sound of that Juma Chetan that any Chayuti Jebe and Tangita Juma Nankim something.
So we look at all phenomena just like a magical creation illusion. There is no inherent substance to all those things. It all appears, it's all functioning in some way, but there is really no inherent substance to all this phenomena. So what's happening is when we are at a magic show, right? If we believe these are the fake horse and elephant, then there's not much fun. The fun is taken out. But somehow we believe these are real horses and elephants being created, and we're just amazed. How could this be? What we are seeing? It's in the same way that we attribute inherent existence, substance to phenomena, and then we believe in our own, fabrication. Right now we feel that all phenomena exist the way we see them to exist. But that's where we are wrong. Yeah? Things don't exist the way we are seeing them. And that's the illusion part. Yeah? And so that's what we got to remind ourselves, that we are so much caught up with the appearances and believe in our own fabrication. And that's where we are, misled by our own wrong notion.
Pamato Gundu Libayana, Terejan, Luron, Yam the Gomni, Chabad Doko, the Tub Kang, Gonja, Tawam Dotomatuna, Ducho Bayambe, give Hinula, Dudo Pitula, beverage house. That and the Chabad Doyak, Tub Mambukin, those Gomchin, Tandu, the Dogmatuna, and they associate give Hinula, Chini, Dudopi, that way, and Tub Begoriscan.
So we tried that. So we have gone through a number of ways to deal with our attachment. If even then it's not working out, well, then it is suggested here that we go and request our gurus, to give us the blessings and inspiration. Actually, in the text it says "Tyudoba Choga," which literally means request for a ritual to get rid of this demonic inside us, the demon inside us. Of course, to get rid of this demon inside us, the best and the supreme method is to meditate on emptiness. Meditation on emptiness is the best kind of a method and a weapon that can overcome and defeat any kind of what we call demonic forces or the delusions. And we can add to that cultivating great love and great compassion. So with meditation on emptiness, great love and great compassion, we have the three best methods to deal with any kind of negativities inside us or the demonic forces inside us.
And
of course, we pray earnestly to our lineage masters, starting from Buddha Shakyamuni all the way down to our root gurus, that we pray to them for their inspirations and blessings so that we are able to really deal with these demons, the delusions inside us, by cultivating meditation on emptiness, great love, great compassion. And we will stop there today, and we have an announcement and some prayer requests. First announcement, Kanden Sharze monks who are on the tour, they will return here in March, and on March 4th, 5th, and 6th, so they will be doing mandala at UC Irvine, okay? And so there are more information, handouts we prepared and we left in the lobby if you're interested in, or you can visit their website called www.kandensharzetour.org. And you can, I guess, talk to Annie too for more information. Prayer request. His Most Eminence Meling Tenzin Rinpoche, the head of Nyingma tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, recently passed away in India at his seat monastery in Mintoling Monastery in Rajpur. So we all pray for him to be able to return back, soon to guide his lineage and sentient beings. And also, maybe you know that Honorable Congressman Tom Landos, passed away recently. We request prayers for him. And Ren Wolf, Carlos Garcia have passed away, and prayers have been requested for them as well. And then Finn Donaldson, 1 year old, maybe ate a lot of peanuts or something, so is badly ill. So we request prayer for him to recover, quickly from his sickness.
Many much and to shape it up at the go by in the paint and be Yancy to me to Pebata. At the one I in that tongue to the Anish, Chevashamani, Tenzin Dorjee, and Chuda Chair, thanks man tip. And that nothing to the plane, name Sandang, Legal Madam.
So I would like to ask you to join me in prayers. Holy beings such as His Most Eminence Meling Tenzin Rinpoche, who have passed away, we request them to return soon to guide sentient beings. May their reincarnations appear soon. And others who have passed away, including Congressman Tom Landos and others, we pray that may they be able to find good rebirths. And those who are, have health issues, we pray that may they be able to overcome their health issues soon.
Shadong Gole Jaboton, Shadong Zombie Sanjeton, Kalakan de Tena, Zumba Cherizona, Shatelo, Manibime, Ngaran Chamal Lake, the Chunishi gave Zaula Teni, Sanji Tembarambucheta, the Nevata. And Joey in of a survey, then the shape of the man Shakusi bit Tamba, the 2 Jindo to the Bemilton Yomata. And they cheered on his show upon the Chunishi into the Robata. Getting to come to the Gendo, Mentibigo Sota the Kenny, Tinjin Sota the Bemilton Yomata.
Let's dedicate our merit for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other holy beings live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and may beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. Last but not least, we dedicate our collective positive energy for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of 2 types of mental obscuration, and may we all become Buddhas soon. Geshe has a lunch appointment, so please, I think postpone your visit today.